Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 138. Epilogue. The Fei River had almost completely calmed, yet the fleeing soldiers kept watching the scene speechlessly. They then came back to themselves, and with loud shouts, scattered across the mountainous wilderness. Xie Xian, his hair in disarray, slowly gathered a group of Jin commanders around him. The black clouds dispersed, and the Qin army had been routed and were now fleeing. Murong Chong turned, searching for Fu Jian's whereabouts, but he found that he had already completely vanished. Princess King He pushed aside the people blocking her way and rushed towards Murong Chong, sobbing. "Chong air." Murong Chong let out an exhausted breath, before wrapping his arms tightly around Princess King He. King Onobayashi, Shimoken, and the rest of them came over, each of them giving Xiangshu a pat on the back. Shimoken was exhausted from the fight and he hugged Xiangshu tiredly. Chen Xing sat right down on the ground, only to suddenly see that someone had joined them. He had no choice but to pat himself down and stand up again. "Little Shidi!" Xian shouted from the other side. "Come and take a look. What are we supposed to do with this now?" Xiangshu gestured at the group that they would pick this up again in a bit, before he grabbed Chen Xing's hand tightly and led him to the center of the empty space around which thousands of people had gathered. The Akala blade was stabbed into the ground, and it was firmly pinning two small snakes made of black flames. "Chu's spiritual and earthly Hun," Xin Yuanping said, after a moment's thought. Chen Xing wanted to try using the heart lamp to exorcise them to see how they would react, but he suddenly realized that he no longer had a way to use the heart lamp. "There's no need to exorcise them any further," Xiangshu said, after glancing at the position that Chen Xing's hands were in. "They can't be exorcised any further. Even if you had the heart lamp, they wouldn't be able to be completely dispelled. These are the Hun of a god, not the Hun of a human. The heart lamp is an artifact that has been passed down from an ancient god, and can only be used on all living things that are below the level of a god. You won't able to purify a god. What exactly is this guy?" Chen Xing recalled the question that he once had asked Chu. "No one knows," Xin Yuanping frowned. "He's too ancient." Wen Che furrowed his brows. "As soon as we pull the sword out, he might end up running off again, and who knows what will happen in the future if that's the case." "If I haven't remembered incorrectly," Xian said, "none of Chu's three Hun can be purified by the divine and earth veins. There is one more Hun, which becomes the seed of Mara, absorbs the resentment in the human realm, and repeats the cycle every 1,000 years. Is that right?" Xiangshu immediately said, "We cannot let him go. Otherwise, at some point, three Maras may appear. If the three Maras then decided to join together to become one, that would cause unimaginable troubles. Though the devil heart was already destroyed and Chu's body could no longer be revived, just his three Hun alone were more than enough to deal with." Feng Qinjun mused, "Then, what if we left the Akala blade pinned here, and added a few more seals?" "That won't do," Chen Xing said. He was truly in a conundrum. As time passes, what if the seals weaken? This guy was really too hard to deal with, he couldn't be killed no matter what, and Chen Xing was beginning to understand the Xuanyuan's clan's helplessness. How was he dealt with in the first place? Xiao Shan asked. "What if we take him back to Karasha and bury him underground?" Xiao Shan took a tree branch to poke at Chu's two Hun and Chen Xing admonished him. "Stop playing with them. What fun are they? You think they're earthworms?" Chen Xing suspected a little that Chu's original form could have been a dragon or something similar, but now, he truly did have a headache. "He is already very weak," Wen Che said, after thinking for a bit. "Chu's three Hun all depend on resentment for sustenance. Right now, it is the weakest it has been, and it will not be difficult to seal him. That can be done with the soul binding array. The difficulty lies in how to protect this seal, never mind that conflicts will never stop arising in the human realm, and as resentment collects from each battle, it will slowly grow strong again. Xian sighed. The way I see it, let's just do the best we can. No one can open their mouth and make a promise that lasts for all eternity, isn't that right? Even our old ancestor, Xian Yuan, was not able to resolve every issue, and in the end, he could not prevent it from reviving at a later time. It is already not easy for humans to be able to extend their plans out for 100 years or 1,000 years. Who will be able to predict what will happen 10,000 years later? Wen Che and Xin Yuanping could not help but nod at that. With their mana, maintaining the seal for 1,000 years or two should be possible. Chen Xing sank into a thoughtful silence. He didn't nod, nor did he shake his head. What do you think? Xiang Shu held Chen Xing's hand tightly, entangling their fingers together. Chen Xing met Xiang Shu's gaze, and he replied, he can be weakened one step further. Before Xian could ask, he also dimly guessed at the solution. The soul-splitting array, Feng Qianjun said. We can split his hun up. That won't be easy, Xin Yuanping said earnestly, after a moment's thought. But it won't hurt to give it a try. The Ghost King spoke up. I have a plan. Everyone looked to the Ghost King, who walked towards the Akala blade pinned to the ground. Split his spiritual and earthly hun into multiple pieces, and using the mana of me and those like me, seal each into an artifact. Us drought fiends will live forever, so we can each watch over an artifact for all time. A good idea. Xian immediately praised. Will that work? Chen Xing asked, before he thought it over. It seems like it could work as a plan. If they were sealed and handed over to the humans to stand guard over, it would be impossible to ensure that each generation that came after would hold fast to the rules that they had laid down, and it would be even less possible to ensure that no one would have other intentions and use the artifact to do something else. If the artifacts were given to the drought fiends, things would be much safer, because they wouldn't die. Plus, after the hun were split, the 7 pieces of Shu soul would no longer be fully conscious, and it wouldn't be very possible for them to bewitch their watchers to fit them back together. Never mind that even if they did manage to bewitch Sima Wei and the Ghost King, Chen Xing had lit the lamps in their heart before, and it would be very difficult for Chu to influence them now. Xian said, the Zheng drum, the Kang Lang pearl, the Tian Luo fan, the White Tiger pennant, the Zuyu pennant and the Luahun bell. That makes 6 already. I'm afraid that the 4 signet rings may not be able to hold up. The Akala blade cannot be used as an artifact to seal him away in, Chen Xing said to Xiang Shu. It needs to be passed down in the future, to exorcise Mara. Xiang Shu nodded. Xiao Shan asked, what about Kangshan Yuli? See, this should work. Wait a moment, Xiang Shu said. Let's not rush to assign them. There are only 2 drought fiends, and even if we manage to allocate 7 artifacts, we need to give 1 to each person. Who will stand guard over them? Sima Wei and the Ghost King glanced at each other. Wen Che said, Xin Yuanping and I can each hold onto 1. We can manage to pass muster as drought fiends as well. That's still only 4 people, Chen Xing said. Yuduo pointed at himself, slapping a hand against his chest, indicating that he could as well. 5, Chen Xing counted. Count me in, little Shidi, Wang Meng said. Eldest Chikshan. Xian was shocked. I don't know you, don't randomly go around claiming kinship with people, Wang Meng said in response, glancing at Xian. As soon as Fujian had started the battle, Wang Meng had come over. Chen Xing suddenly realized something, and he asked, did you take Fujian away? The devil god's blood has already invaded his entire body and filled it with poison, so he will not live for much longer, Wang Meng replied. I gave him some simple treatment and told him to go back to where he belonged to await his death. What point is there in capturing him as a prisoner on the battlefield and subjecting him to humiliation? With this loss, it would be very difficult for Fujian to grow powerful again, never mind that he didn't have long left to live. The north would be chaotic for a time. Since his task had been accomplished, Xian no longer brought that up. Xiangshu glanced at Chen Xing, and Chen Xing nodded. 6. Chen Xing said. Xian said, give me the last artifact Ba. After this battle, I want nothing more than to give up my post and retire, so that I can focus on being an exorcist. If nothing else, after I die, you can then turn me. Xian, Xin Yuanping said, frowning, you are very outstanding, but you will not do. Xian was immediately dealt a crushing blow. He had studied so hard and for so long, but in the end, was not able to gain that recognition, and his expression was baffled. Wen Che said to Xin Yuanping unhappily, can you not be like this? Look, the old man is on the verge of tears because of you. As soon as Xin Yuanping was scolded, he immediately explained, it's not that your cultivation isn't enough, but rather that this process of drawing a fragment of a divine Han into an artifact is very complex. This kind of divine Han is not something that a mortal body can handle. The chi of death will envelop you, instantly turning you into a drought fiend. Even an exorcist will not be able to hold out against it, unless you wish to become one of us and from here on, live forever. Though you are already aware of this, it's still something that you should consider carefully. Xiangshu glanced at Chen Xing, but he did not speak. Instead, he lifted his eyebrows slightly. Chen Xing knew what Xiangshu wanted to say. Do you want to? If you want to, then I can become a drought fiend with you, and we can keep each other company for all eternity. But Chen Xing thought of a problem. After they became drought fiends, could they still do that? Last time, he had even asked Che Lufeng that. If they could not, then. Of course, when he studied Xin Yuanping and Wen Che, it seemed like they could. He was too embarrassed to ask, so he simply seemed a little unwilling. You two will not do either, Wen Che explained, knowing what Chen Xing's expression meant even without having to think about it. You and the martial god will be needed to help activate the array, so you will not be able to take an artifact. Xiangshu, what if we go asking around? Perhaps the emperor of the Jin people wants to be a living corpse. Let's not. All of the Jin commanders' faces paled at the same time. It was troublesome enough for the emperor to have been an emperor for his entire life. If he were to live forever and rule for all eternity, how horrific would that be? I think Fujian might want to, Feng Qianjun said, torn between laughing and crying. Wang Meng, you shouldn't have sent him away. Wang Meng replied mildly, if that's the case, he might turn into a disaster for the divine land. Let me, a voice said. Everyone turned back to look, only to see Tue Bayan, with one hand pressed slightly against his chest, walking to that empty patch of ground. Between his fingers, from the place over his heart where he had been wounded, a small bit of black blood seeped forth. Tue Bayan. Chen Xing immediately went over to check on Tue Bayan. Tue Bayan was a little tired, and he said, I'll sit as I talk to you all. Weren't you all right? Chen Xing asked anxiously. Just now, you said it was nothing. Are you gravely wounded? Perhaps I'm, Tue Bayan said, I seem to am I already dead? Tue Bayan was a little confused, and he continued, my heart doesn't seem to be beating anymore. Chen Xing. Everyone stared at Tue Bayan, before Wen Che knelt on the ground with one knee to check him over. Xian and Feng Qianjun crowded around, and quite a few exorcists rushed to stand in front of Tue Bayan. Bihan's eyes were all filled with tears and they asked, Commander. It's true, isn't it? Tue Bayan said to Chen Xing. I'm already dead. Chen Xing glanced at Xiangshu. Xiangshu's gaze landed on Chen Xing's finger, and he fell silent for a moment. Tue Bayan, however, seemed to be able to guess at what they were thinking of doing, and he immediately said, Don't. Do you want to redo it once again? You mustn't. It took so much effort to get rid of him. Xiao Shan knelt in front of Tuoba Yan and pulled his hand aside, pressing his ear to Tuoba Yan's chest. He was silent, before he finally hugged him. "We won't be able to," Xiang Shu said at last after a moment of silent thought. "First, it's been too long. Second, we borrowed too much power from the divine and earth veins in this period of time to explosively increase the levels of spiritual qi, especially for that bit of time while you were controlling the divine and earth veins, as well as to gather up the light to forge the sword. This isn't like the silence of all magic. If we were to turn back time, we need to use up even more spiritual qi to do so. To turn back time, it won't be enough to simply borrow the spiritual qi of the heavens and the earth. We will probably also have to sacrifice something in return." Xiang Shu walked forward and grasped the tied ring on Chen Xing's finger. Ever since it had appeared, it had oddly remained in this world, and now Chen Xing wore it on his finger. Xiang Shu tried to turn it, but the tied ring remained stuck and did not move. Chen Xing knew that since Xiang Shu was once the Dinghai pearl, more or less, he had some sort of a connection to this artifact, so he let out a sigh. Murong Chong looked at Tuoba Yan, saying, "You died when the arrow pierced through his chest and went into your body." Tuoba Yan said. "But I did it. I simply wanted him to return." Murong Chong and Tuoba Yan watched each other silently, before Tuoba Yan mustered up a smile at him. Murong Chong asked heavily, "Was it worth it?" Tuoba Yan did not reply. A moment later, he turned to address Chen Xing. "I want to be a drought fiend. Lu Ying promised that he'd wait for me. While I was alive, I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to wait until he came." And as he spoke, Tuoba Yan explained, "Like this, I can wait for 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years." Xiao Shan's expression immediately changed at that, and he watched Tuoba Yan. Tuoba Yan said to Xiao Shan, "He will come back, right? What did he say to you?" "You will be able to wait until he comes," Xiao Shan said quietly. Chen Xing's eyes were reddened, and he walked forward, hugging Tuoba Yan tightly. "Prepare the soul-splitting array," Xiang Shu said. "Tuoba Yan, with loss comes gain. Your life will, from this moment on, exist in harmony with the world around you. You will possess an infinite amount of time, so go experience the joys and sorrows, the grief and happiness of humans. That may not be set in stone," Wen Che said. "That Shihai who killed so many people once existed in harmony with the world as well, but that didn't prevent him from seeking his own death and bringing misfortune to others around him. Oh well." Everyone couldn't resist chuckling at that, yet those chuckles held a tinge of bitterness in them. Xian mused silently, before he let out a sigh. People always spoke of the benefits of immortality, to live as long as the world, to exist as long as time itself. But how was that not a kind of long-distant loneliness? Once the people that they knew, loved, and made promises to all left this world behind, they would become just like the shepherd god Wang Hai who had lost Zhang Yao. In the end, living for thousands of years would be nothing more than a kind of torment. "Life is short and filled with suffering," Xin Yuanping said, "but it is also because it is short and filled with suffering that joy arises from it. However, that is something that me and my kind will no longer be able to understand." Everyone split apart at that. Tuoba Yan and Chen Xing hugged each other for a bit. Tuoba Yan lifted a hand to stroke Chen Xing's head, saying, "It's really odd. Sometimes, I feel like I was your protector at some point." "Martial God, don't be angry, I was just joking." "Thank you," Chen Xing said quietly, "Tuoba Yan." Xiang Shu said, "I am sorry, Tuoba Yan." "Tuoba Yan. Let's begin." Wen Che said. "Hurry up and finish this, then we can go back." Xin Yuanping said, "To split Shizhan, we must be over a spot where the earth veins intersect, so we may need to work hard for a bit more." Xiang Shu, "Sorry for troubling you too further." Chen Xing nodded. Xin Yuanping took Jiao form, while Xian had the artifacts brought here, and everyone split up. Tuoba Yan said, "Why don't I seal it into the Liu Yun signet ring?" With that, everyone came to an agreement. Xin Yu and Ping flew away with the Drought Kings, and Xiang Shu and Chen Xing watched as the Azure Jiao vanished into the sky. If we recognized Xin Yu and Ping Qianbei a little earlier, Xiang Shu said, I wouldn't have had to go riding out on a horse every day to search for you, rushing about desperately. Chen Xing was still feeling sad on Tuoba Yan's behalf, but when he heard Xiang Shu's words, he couldn't resist laughing again. "So are you trying to get back at me?" Chen Xing asked. "I've chased after you as well." Xiang Shu walked to the Akala blade. He pressed one hand against the hilt, thought for a moment, and said, "You didn't give chase for that stretch from Chi Le Chuan to Dongying." Chen Xing. That day, after the Battle of the Fei River ended, the 10,000 spirits array of the Divine Land was once again activated. Where the earth veins intersected, each point that represented the 7 stars of the northern dipper glowed with a bright light, and the divine and earth veins once again connected gently for a brief period of time. The eldest son of the Xiang Nuakele king, the Yao Guang Drought Fiend king, Yuduo, raised the white tiger pennant, calling down the spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth. In Qiang, the ghost king stood tall in front of the stone tower of Karakoram, lifting the zheng drum to point it at the sky. Sima Wei held the Zuyu pennant aloft at the peak of the Yin Mountains. Tuoba Yan used the Liu Yun signet ring in Luoyang, while Wang Men used the Tian Luo fan in Chang'an. Wen Che stood with the Luohun bell in Kuiji, and Xin Yu and Ping had the Kang Lang pearl as he stood in Xiangyang. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing pressed their hands against the Akala blade, and spiritual chi flowed through the divine and earth veins, forming the symbols of the soul-splitting array, which began to separate across the world. In this instant, the divine land itself became an array to seal Chu away, and as his 2 Hun wailed painfully, they were split into 7 pieces, which were sent into the sky. "Ah!" Chen Xing exclaimed, looking up at the divine vein. The heart lamp. Within the divine vein, the heart lamp's power flashed again and again, and every piece of the godly Hun that was sent away had an additional seal of the heart lamp applied to it. In the blink of an eye, they were sent along the divine vein to locations thousands of li distant, where they entered the bodies of each of the Drought Fiend kings, and were from there sent into the artifacts. The 7 artifacts glowed at the same time, signaling the completion, 3,000 years after the Battle of Bonkan, of the resealing of the god of weapons, Xu. Jiankang, the platform in the palace. The Jin Emperor Sima Yao looked up at the sky and he couldn't help exclaiming, "Yo, what day is it today? First it's bright, then it's dark, a wild wind is blowing and rain is pouring down, then there's thunder rumbling through the sky and lightning coming down. Then, in the blink of an eye, it's clear again, then the sky grows dark, then it gets bright again. Plus, there's flashes of light from time to time. I'm about to go blind from all of this." Pu Yang chuckled from behind Sima Yao. "This is an auspicious tiding that happens only once in 3,000 years, Your Majesty. According to these changes, the exorcists must have won." Sima Yao asked doubtfully, "Really?" At the same time, a guard said hastily, "They've won. In the Battle of the Fei River, Fu Jian lost and is in retreat. His million-strong army fell apart like a mountain collapsing in on itself." Pu Yang was shocked. "Where did the news come from? So quickly?" "Just now, outside, there was a talking bird that suddenly told us. I was frightened out of my wits." Sima Yao immediately leapt up, and he cackled loudly, shouting, "Xian! Xian!" Xian's expression was dull as he and Wang Xian played chess in his house. Sima Yao and his ministers came barging in. "They've won! They've won!" Sima Yao shouted. "They've won! You were right." Woodenly, Xian was dragged outside by Sima Yao, but both of them tripped and fell to the ground. Wang Xian was first overjoyed, before he was greatly shocked, and he hurriedly said, Your Majesty, you must not. His back's not good, huh? What he saw was Sima Yao holding a wooden clog in one hand as he tripped over the threshold. Everyone looked at each other, confused. Another year passed. In Jiankang, the autumn air was crisp and clean. The main street was covered in bright, festive colors as Xian gathered the entirety of the exorcism department to cast a spell. That day, the heavenly maiden's scattering blossoms spell caused flowers to fly through the air. Jiankang was filled with thousands of red blossoms on that autumn day, and the flowers kept falling for almost a whole season. The Feng Manor had been decorated with brocade banners and silk tapestries, and all members of the Wang, Xie, Zhu, Zhang, Lu, and Gu clans were all present. This was the first wedding ceremony that the exorcism department was holding after its formation, and in the main hall, the Feng family had laid out an embroidered scroll of the vast land. The groom, Feng Qianjun, wore a set of brocade robes tailored in his usual martial style, while the bride, Gu Qing, wore a set of wedding robes embroidered with the phoenix and 100 birds, as they walked to the front of the hall. Feng Qianyi sat in the area where the parents sat, smiling gently as he looked at his little brother and his little brother's wife. "Be seated," the officiator sang out. "Partake together. Remove the fan. Perform the bows." Chen Xing, Xiao Shan, and Tuoba Yan were all listening attentively, and when the officiator sang out "tease the couple," they immediately charged forward and they all worked together to carry Feng Qianjun away. Gu Qing said. "Feng Lang." Several people piled onto Feng Qianjun's back, and Feng Qianjun, who hadn't been expecting to be squished, shouted wildly, "Wait! I haven't lifted the veil yet. What are you all doing now?" Xiang Shu and Xian, who had been conversing, walked over. Upon seeing them teasing Feng Qianjun, he couldn't help frowning. Chen Xing immediately said, "We're not doing anything. I just want to know if he's actually 9 kun or not." Feng Qianjun, you. Tianke. You said so yourself. Chen Xing said. Xiao Shan and Tuoba Yan came over to sit on Feng Qianjun's back to hold him down, but when they saw Xiang Shu come over, they ran off. Feng Qianjun thanked the heavens and the earth, and he straightened his pants, saying, "Thank goodness you came, Xiang Xiandi." Xiang Shu, however, had his arms crossed as he stepped over, sitting down on Feng Qianjun as well. He said expressionlessly, "When did you say that to Xing Er? I knew you were up to no good." Feng Qianjun wailed, "Save me." To one side of the banquet hall, the Ghost King and Sima Wei were sitting on their own, their faces expressionless. They were still waiting for Tuoba Yan. "Have you ever been married?" Sima Wei asked the Ghost King. "I forgot." The Ghost King thought for a bit, but he really couldn't remember. He asked Sima Wei, "How about you?" Sima Wei seemed to have thought the same thing, and he said, "I must have. In these past few days, I've looked into what happened during my lifetime, and I had a wife before." The Ghost King wooed and said, "I cannot read the script of today. After a few more days, I should go find a teacher to learn from for a bit." "Where's Wang Meng?" Sima Wei asked. "Why hasn't he come?" "He doesn't know them," the Ghost King replied. "He's probably gone back to find Fujian." At the next table over, Chen Xing tossed a peanut their way. Sima Wei and the Ghost King turned their heads at the same time, both of them trying to catch that peanut. In the end, it was the Ghost King who managed to catch it in his mouth. Chen Xing wanted to throw another one, only for Xiang Shu to say, "Stop playing around and eat ba. Once you finish eating, let's leave quickly, the noise is giving me a headache." Xiao Shan and Tuoba Yan were each holding a suana, blowing it at the other, and Xiang Shu was about to go mad from the sound. Chen Xing said, "You just want to go home. We should spend a little more time with them now, because in the future, it'll be hard for us to even find time to see each other." Xiang Shu said, "Then go spend some time with the 9 kun person." Chen Xing replied, "Aren't you 9 kun as well?" "Actually, I think it's even more than that." Xiang Shu asked, "And how would you know?" "Let me measure it for you right now." Chen Xing held Xiang Shu down, going right to touch him, but Xiang Shu immediately protested, "Don't tease. How come you're so self-conscious?" Chen Xing chuckled, hugging Xiang Shu around the waist. The emperor came over, and Chen Xing immediately let go of Xiang Shu, doing his utmost to eke out a little bit of that great exorcist demeanor. He smiled and asked, "How come your majesty's here?" Zhen wanted to see the newly appointed great exorcist, Sima Yao said. It was rare for him to come attend a wedding of his own accord. "Hello, you two." Chen Xing stood up and greeted him in return, but at this time, it was very inconvenient for Xiang Shu to stand up. He enigmatically cupped his hands in Sima Yao's direction instead. "Is the great Chanyu truly leaving?" Sima Yao didn't complain about the lack of greeting, since Xiang Shu had once been a ruler of a nation as well. Instead, he sat down at one side. "Is Master Chen no longer going to be the great exorcist either?" Xiang Shu replied, "We're just going to travel around. Feng Qianjun isn't going to be the great exorcist either, he'll just be filling in for now. After a few years, once a new generation begins to learn, the title will be passed down as well." Sima Yao nodded and sighed. "You two must come back someday." Chen Xing replied, "We definitely will. As soon as we find your majesty a miraculous hair growth formula, we'll return." Sima Yao immediately replied, "That's very good, that's very good." He then rose and said, "I'll go check on Xian." Xiang Shu continued to sit. He glanced at Chen Xing again, and Chen Xing placed his hand on Xiang Shu's thigh, reaching backwards. Today, Xiang Shu had worn a pair of white martial trousers, and the silk was slippery and comfortable to the touch. He couldn't help wanting Chen Xing to touch or pinch him through the silken martial robe that he had wrapped around his chest as well. "Has it gone down?" Chen Xing asked. Xiang Shu scooted a little closer, and he voiced a threat in Chen Xing's ear. "It went down just now, but when you touched it, it went up again." Chen Xing turned his head to look at him and licked his lips, saying, "You're definitely more than 9 kun. In a bit, I'll let you use yourself to measure how many kun it is," Xiang Shu added. "I'll let you measure to your heart's content for a whole 3 days and nights." Chen Xing. "Only Murong Chong isn't here," Xian said to Feng Qianyi, a little regretful. "Otherwise, we would have gathered everyone." "I'm not close to him," Feng Qianyi said. "I did, however, invite King He, but since she didn't come, it's all right." As the hubbub of celebration continued through the hall, Xie Xian suddenly hurried in. He glanced over, pushed through the guests, and said to Sima Yao, "Your Majesty." Suddenly, the hall quieted. Xie Xian's voice was not loud, but the entire hall full of guests that had come to the banquet heard his words very clearly. "Fujian has passed," Xie Xian said quietly. In the 10th year of the Taiyuan era, after the Battle of the Fei River, Murong Chong organized the army and took in the old Xianbei tribes of Qi Li Chuan. He quelled the uprisings in the region of Yuzhu, conquered Chang'an, and routed the Qin army, before establishing himself as the emperor in Afang Palace, continuing the rule of the Great Yan. That year, Fujian fled Chang'an, only to be defeated and taken captive at the hands of Yao Chang. On the 26th day of the 8th month, Fujian met his death by hanging at Yao Chang's hands. The Great Qin collapsed and split apart, and the various Hu people separated. The north was once again split up into factions, and they either returned to Qi Li Chuan or declared themselves kings of their own region. Fu Pai declared himself emperor in Jinyang. That same year, after Feng Qianjun got married, Xian fell ill and did not rise from his bed again. Several days later, he coughed up blood and died. The country of Jin went into mourning, and Xian received the posthumous styling of Wenjing. The day that his funeral was held, 4 million residents of the Jiangnan region poured into Jiankang. Sima Yao personally served as a casket bearer, his grief and pain hard to suppress, and Xian was buried on Mount Zhong. The exorcism department held a plaque aloft, "Eternal Benefactor." The entire city of Jiankang was filled with the sounds of weeping, and the casket proceeded slowly through it. A single person, wearing a bamboo hat and 4 colored rings on his hands, watched curiously, holding only a single wooden clog left from a pear in his hand. He couldn't win out against his urge to sigh, and he was so overcome with emotion that his tears streaked down his face. It was Xian himself. Xian crept noiselessly away, just about to leave, but as soon as he turned, he almost crashed into his own niece, Xie Dayun. Xie Dayun stood there with her arms crossed, her face expressionless. "Xian, Xie Dayun, come, take a look. Lord Xie hasn't died at all." Xian hurriedly covered Xie Dayun's mouth, pushing her into an alleyway, saying, "Uncle has to go. Do you want me to kowtow to you? Stop causing a ruckus." Xie Dayun's eyes reddened, and she suddenly hugged Xian, sobbing as she did so. Xian began to smile, and he stroked Xie Dayun's head. At twilight, a crisp whistle cut through a mountain grove. Xian, with his hands clasped behind his back, flew away through the sky on his sword. That year, in late autumn, Lu Ying sat in a tea stall at the foot of the singing sand dunes. He folded the letter up, tying it with a thin strip of silk, and split them into 2. He then put 2 leaves in them, wrote to Xiao Shan and to Tuobayan, then handed them to a passing courier. After picking up a wooden staff, he followed the caravan, heading even further west. 3 days before the autumn close festival, Xiao Shan returned to Chi Le Chuan to take up the mantle of the Xiangnu Chanyu. This year's autumn close festival was magnificent beyond compare. Early in the morning, as Xiao Shan was welcoming celebratory presents in his tent, a shout suddenly sounded outside. Everyone turned to look at the same time, and in the next moment, they all went rushing out, leaving Xiao Shan behind in the Xiangnu king's tent. "Xiao Shan!" Xiao Shan followed them out, only to see that Xiangshu was currently tying up a horse outside Chi Le Chuan, while Chen Xing was handing the goods from the south that they had brought on their horse cart to the tribesmen. He smiled and said, "I'm back." Xiao Shan immediately let out a loud yelp, and he rushed forward, wrapping his legs around Chen Xing's waist as he hugged him. Chen Xing immediately lost his balance, and he and Xiao Shan went tumbling to the ground. "You're already 18. Xiangshu raged. "You're even taller than Chen Xing, yet you're still pouncing on him like this. You're the Xiangnu king." Chen Xing was angry as well. "Why are you still so much like a child?" In the midst of his joy, Xiao Shan was subject to a scolding, so he had no choice but to stand to one side. However, he couldn't resist glancing at the 2 of them again and again, and a moment later, he began to chuckle again. "Thankfully we made it in time," Chen Xing said, ignoring the group of people fighting over the horse cart. "Hurry up and go sit back inside the tent, they're in the middle of crowning you as their king." Xiangshu tossed a package to Chen Xing. Xiao Shan walked in front, and he turned back angrily to say, "I thought you 2 wouldn't come." "I didn't want to at first," Xiangshu said. It was Chen Xing who insisted that he wanted to come. Xiao Shan said, "Gag, why do your words never match up with what you feel inside?" Chen Xing laughed loudly at that, and he said, "Isn't he just that kind of person whose words never match up with what he's feeling?" Xiao Shan then asked, "How about them?" "Who?" Xiangshu asked, frowning. "Is it not enough that we 2 are here to keep you company? Who else do you want to find?" Xiao Shan didn't say anything more. Chen Xing added, "Dayun wanted to come at first, but she just got married. She said that next year, she'll come to make it up to you." Feng Dage and Xing Er went to her wedding as well. Chen Xing patted Xiao Shan's shoulder, and he smiled encouragingly. "Where's the drought fiend candy?" Xiao Shan was asking about Sima Wei. "He and the Ghost King are on the way," Chen Xing said. "After they celebrate you taking up the mantle of the little Chan Yu, they're thinking of going to Karasha to play." "Has Yuduo come?" "He's here," Xiao Shan said. "He's with his dad and mom." "Where's Tuoba Yan?" "He has gone down to the Silk Road," Xiang Shu replied impatiently. Wen Che and Xin Yuanping went to Xiangyang, Chen Xing said. "We didn't manage to get the word to them. Murong Chong is currently busy since he's become emperor, and king he couldn't leave either." Xiao Shan had no choice but to let it go, and he turned and backed away. He already looked like an adult, but when he was with Xiang Shu and Chen Xing, he seemed to have become a child again. Chen Xing saw the Akale king and consort not too far away. Nadaro already knew how to walk, and could run very fast. Yuduo was sitting under a tree, and he inclined his head at them in greeting. Chen Xing whistled and shouted, "Xiang Shu! Come over here!" "Xiang Shu!" As soon as that dog heard Chen Xing's voice, it immediately turned its head alertly. It then stuck out its tongue, its tail wagging, as it raced towards him. As soon as it leapt onto Chen Xing, it began to lick him. "How come you're so fat now?" Chen Xing asked disbelievingly. "In such a short period of time." "Xiang Shu, that's right, Chen Xing, how come you're so fat now?" "Don't." The dogs clearly called Xiang Shu. Chen Xing corrected him. "Come, little Chan Yu, please enter the tent so that me and mine may greet you." Chen Xing led the group of Hu people into the tent. Xiao Shan's eyes reddened as he sat down on the royal seat. Chen Xing prepared to greet him, when he suddenly chuckled. "Don't." Xiao Shan said. Xiang Shu, however, lifted a hand to stop Xiao Shan, and he ordered, "Sit." Xiang Shu was once the great Chan Yu, so he did not need to kowtow to Xiao Shan. Chen Xing had the feather head dress, and according to Qi Li Chuan's rules, the bearer of the feather head dress was at the same level as a Chan Yu, so he technically didn't need to kowtow either. Chen Xing, however, with his identity as a Han person, stood as he bowed to Xiao Shan in the Han style. "The four seas and the prairies are all the great Chan Yu's land," Chen Xing smiled. "The vast, fertile lands of the Xiongnu people are the little Chan Yu, Yaito Zishan's territory. I, on behalf of my great Jin's exorcism department's elders, represent the great exorcist, Fei Tian Ye, a certain immortal cultivator of the Xie clan, and the 7 drought fiend kings of the world, have come specially to attend the little Chan Yu's assuming of the mantle. I offer up this feather head dress as my regards." And saying this, Chen Xing took the package and opened it. Xiang Shu took out the feather head dress of 16 colors within, and Xiao Shan, his face filled with surprise, lowered his head slightly. Xiang Shu put it on himself. These 16 tail feathers had come from the 14 people and drought fiends in the exorcism department whose ties to him ran deep: Chen Xing, Xiang Shu, Xian, Fei Tian Ye, Gu Qing, Sima Wei, Murong Chong, King He, and so on and so forth. The other 2 were a phoenix feather and a peacock plume. Those had appeared one day, when Chen Xing and Xiang Shu were passing through the Taihang Mountains and were staying there temporarily. When they had woken one day, the feathers had appeared on the table, and they figured they were keepsakes that Chongming and Kongxian had left them, as presents from the Yao tribes to the humans. They figured that they might as well use those gifts in another, so when Chen Xing was making this feather head dress, he gave them to Xiao Shan as well. After Xiang Shu straightened the feather head dress, he said solemnly, "You will be an admirable Chan Yu, Yaito Zishan. Remember that from this day on, until the day you lay down your weapons and cease to draw breath." Chen Xing added earnestly, "I hope that, on this divine land, that the Han and the Hu people never wage war against each other again." It did not snow this year during the autumn close festival. When Tuoba Yan and the drought fiend kings arrived in Qi Li Chuan, It was already early in the morning of the second day. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing, however, had already left, heading westward, circling around Chi Li Chuan. "Where are we going next?" Chen Xing asked. "To find where Che Lufeng went," Xiang Shu replied. Chen Xing thought, "Why are we going to search for Che Lufeng again? Not only are you making him upset, you're making me upset too." But as soon as Chen Xing had that thought, Xiang Shu sensed it, and he said, "You don't like that I'm going to search for my Anda? How could you be so heartless?" Chen Xing replied, "I'm not." "Oh, okay, let's go search for him." Where did the Ruran people move to after that? After Xiang Shu thought for a moment, he sighed and said, "In the end, you're still indifferent. It's not even the same as before, where you chugged vinegar over Che Lufeng all the time. Looks like you don't care about me that much anymore." Chen Xing was at his wit's end, and he raged, "It always comes down to you in the end. Is there any use in me telling you not to go searching for him? You would never listen to me anyways." Xiang Shu stopped talking. Chen Xing said dejectedly, "Look at the others. Look at how Xin Yuanping treats Wen Che." Xiang Shu, "But Xin Yuanping is the exorcist, and Wen Che is the protector." "I don't care," Chen Xing said unhappily. The two of them were sharing one horse. Chen Xing was sitting in front, and Xiang Shu rode behind. Chen Xing turned his head, and he suddenly couldn't resist reaching out again to touch Xiang Shu. "Hey! Behave!" Xiang Shu glanced apathetically at Chen Xing. "Inappropriately touching me again." "Siwai's pretty warm this year," Chen Xing said, his face a little flushed. "What did you promise me before? You'd better not go back on your word." A black cloth appeared in Xiang Shu's hands, as if he was performing a magic trick. "Chen Xing, what are you doing?" Chen Xing asked, confused. "I can't see now." The black cloth had been tied around Chen Xing's eyes, just like back then, when he had walked into the prison cell in darkness, using the guidance of the heart lamp to find Xiang Shu, who was destined to be in his life. "Back then, didn't you pretend to be a blind brat when you found me in Zusu's prison?" Xiang Shu asked in Chen Xing's ear. Their trusty horse circled around the foot of the Yin Mountains, and the plains that stretched out in front of them suddenly seemed endlessly vast. Chen Xing replied, "That's right. Do you like doing it like this?" Xiang Shu wrapped his arms around Chen Xing's waist, hugging him from behind. He then turned his head to study him after he had been blindfolded, the lofty bridge of his nose, his red, moist lips. A smile appeared in his eyes. Then, "Are we doing it now?" Chen Xing kept thinking about it, especially that day when they had done it on the back of a horse. The maple grove passed them by, and Xiang Shu tightened his legs around the horse's flanks. The horse passed over a clear, bubbling creek, and the flowing waters of the creek were filled with maple leaves as bright as blooming flowers. "Actually, Guowang did not lie to you, I truly did not know how to play the qin," Xiang Shu suddenly added. Chen Xing, "I learned it all later." Xiang Shu's voice suddenly grew gentle and warm. "Because I wanted to play the qin for you to listen to." Their valiant horse carried them onwards, ferrying them through the maple grove, whose ground was covered in red leaves, through the grasslands, where the maple leaves scattered and floated slowly to the ground. Every banquet would come to an end, every wind would cease to blow, and every snow would eventually melt, but in that land of blooming peach blossoms, there would always be a place of tenderness. Their steed galloped through the maple leaves that filled the sky, carrying them through countless scenes of light and shadow. Each and every maple leaf that fell glowed in the brilliant golden sunlight after the autumn close festival, looking just like a painting where the light coursed, square by square, through the window lattice. At the end of the maple grove, where the land and the sky met, there appeared a little golden dome of a kinglu, in the midst of a sea of grasses and blossoming flowers. Behind it rose the snow-capped peaks of the mountains. One desire spanned tens of thousands of li, and one gaze spanned tens of thousands of years. As if all of the colors of the world had been painted by this brush stroke into this vibrant painted scroll. In this painting, there was snow, there were clouds, there were mountains, there were seas. The wind that had stopped blowing began to gust once again, sending the pennants in the distance fluttering away, leading them across the mountains and the seas to that small Qinglu. Dinghai Fusheng Records main story end.